I've treated myself to a new teddy bear pattern. It's been a little while since I made a teddy bear, so I thought it'd be a nice change. And I was having a look on Mohair bear making supplies, which is where I always get my Mohair and any other teddy bear supplies from. I've been using them for, well, I think it's about 12 years since I started making Mohair teddy bears. I made teddy bears when I was a teenager, which was many moons ago. But that was just that I used to make up myself. I remember once making a womble because we couldn't get wombles, but we had plenty of craft shops back in the day. So I was able to get the fur and everything else that I needed, and I made my own Orinoco. So I was well chuffed with that. But yeah, so I was probably one of the first people to get a womble. But anyway, back to the job in hand. Yeah, so I got this lovely pattern off Etsy. I got it digital. It's one of Monica Spicer's. I love her patterns. I've got some of her other patterns that I've made other bears from in the past. Again, I'll drop the link below, so if you want to go and take a look, see if there's anything you might like. And the nice thing with it being digital, I've been able to rescale the actual pattern so that it fits nicely onto this lovely mohair. So next thing to do is, what I'm going to do, should I say, I'm going to check, make sure obviously that my pile is lying in the right direction, because obviously when I'm cutting out the bears I need to make sure that the patterns are lying in the right way, so that when we cut the bear out that he hasn't got fur sticking up in the wrong places. And I'll just go and get everything put on the back of this mohair ready, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I placed all of my pattern pieces. When I actually put them onto the card and put the markings on, I also made sure that I put all the arrows on to make sure that I kept the fur going in the right direction. So I put them all onto the back of the mohair, and I traced round them with a micron pen, quite a fine one, so it's not too heavy. But the other thing I needed to make sure as well is that I put the ears up the right way, because I've got a bad habit of cutting the ears out the wrong way up, because you tend to think, oh, put them on that way, you know, going in line with everything else. But no, you need the ears the other way so that the fur shoots out the top of them and not going down to the top of the head. So all that done now with all the markings, I made sure all the markings are on that are necessary. I've also made holes in the body pieces and the legs where I needed to make sure that I put the markings for the joints, etc., like so. So that's that bit done. So the next thing I need to do is to get the pieces for the paw pads. That's the feet and the hands, but the only thing I try to be careful of, not this nice suede kind of fabric can have a bit of a pile sometimes, but the thing is, the main thing I think is to make sure that you put everything in the same direction, because sometimes when the light catches it, with it having that tiny bit of a flock on it kind of thing, when the light catches it, it can look different colours. So when you've got the paws or the bottom of the feet or the hands, you know, you want them to all look the same. So all I do then is I get my pen. I better just make sure that it's working. Yep. Hold it down and go carefully around the edge, across the top. See, what I do as well is I print my pattern out onto paper, and then I put it onto, this is 350 gram card. That's quite a nice thick card, so it's easy to draw around like this sort of thing without it sort of like the edges going in or anything. So once I've done that, the next thing then will be to start with the cutting out. Back in a moment. Okay, so I've had a bit of a change of mind about what colour I should use for the paws and the bottom of the feet. I think this goes quite nice with the colour of the mohair, so I'm going to go with that. Now this particular one does have a definite pile to it, and I can feel that it's running down this way, so I need to be careful now to put these on the back the right way up, so that when it's on the bear I don't end up with different colour feet or what have you when you're looking at them when they're sitting. So it's those two there first, and these two like so. Okay, move it over just a little bit. That should be fine. So now I'm going to get my micron pen. I use micron pens because they don't seem to smudge like some of the others. I'll put the lid down there. So all we've got to do now is, and plus when I printed the feet and the paws off, I also made sure that I had one right and one left. So I flipped them over to make sure if there was any difference on one side to the other, that I've got them the same to match as a pair rather than two left or two right. And I can see a little bit of difference in the shape of these, so it's probably a good idea that I did that. Sometimes when you haven't made a bear for a little while, or anything else for that matter, you do tend to forget sometimes. So if I do make any mistakes, I will tell you, and hopefully I'll put them right before it's too late. So that's that one, and one more, and this one, and around the bottom, carefully around there, and there we go. So now everything is ready to be cut out. Back in a minute. Okay, so I've cut my little paw pads and the bottom of his feet out of that nice olivey green kind of coloured fabric. So the next thing is to cut out the mohair pieces. So it's a bit different with these, we can't just cut it anyhow. Plus I did say that I'd show if I made any mistakes, which I have already. When I was marking on all the joint places, obviously when you've got your legs, you only need joint holes on one side of each leg, and I very carefully put them on for both sides of the legs. So I've put crosses through them so that I don't go and make sure that I don't go and mix my legs up when it comes to it and end up with like two left legs or something silly, which anything's possible. So right, so to cut mohair, we don't go in with the scissors as in like that. What we do is we get a nice nippy pair of scissors and we just snip carefully around the shape, but just cutting the mohair and not going in and cutting through all of the fur on the other side. I mean, I was just having a look because I couldn't remember this. I bought more than one piece of mohair, but this particular mohair it's Schultz and it's silky and it's honey blush, and it's a 21 mil, and hopefully this teddy bear should turn out around 10 inches in size. So, and I want to dress it as well, so but with it not being, you know, a big sort of chunky bear, it's not slender, but it's not as as chunky as some. So hopefully then it'll look nice. I haven't even decided on what fabric I'm going to dress him in yet, but I do have some, I've got some really nice brushed cotton that's like checks and stripes and things like that. It was not a charm pack, the bigger one, 10-inch squares, so that could come in handy because I did dress one of my other bears with some of that, and it looks quite nice. And I think with this colour and some of the colours that I've got, see, the whole idea now is with me only cutting the back, I've still got all this fur there. Had I cut ordinary, that would have cut all that fur off there, so which gives you a lot nicer joints and everything when you're sewing them up, rather than it all being cut off and it'd all be jagged edges there and that. So then it's easy, if necessary, to carefully brush it through your seams, and so it gives a nicer finish. So that's the way you should trim the mohair. So I'm going to carry on now and cut all these out, because I don't think you want to sit and watch me do all that. But then I'll be back later with the next video when it comes to starting to do the sewing. So I'll see you all then. If you'd like to subscribe and give me a follow, it'd be really good, because then you'll be able to know when I have actually put the next video on, because hopefully it won't take me too long, but sometimes life gets in the way and you can't always do what you want to do. But with a bit of luck, I should be back again very soon. Thanks for joining me, and hope you'll come back again soon. Thank you. Bye.